future of the Peace Corps really rests with you. If you do well, then the Peace Corps will be developed, and more Americans will go abroad. And we'll find a greater and greater response to this idea of serving our country. The fact that you're willing to do this for the cause of peace and understanding, I think should make all Americans proud and make them all appreciative.
The first volunteers were given a personal send-off by the president.
He said, a lot of people don't like this idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but all I ask is that you give it a try.
Dennis Grubb had just turned 20 years old when he learned that he'd been accepted into the very first group of Peace Corps trainees. Their destination, Colombia.
We didn't know, exactly how to do the job. The job was community action. What did they want? It was simple. We want schools. We want to educate our kids. We want a road. We want to be healthy. We want a doctor. In 1960, that's what the world wanted.
During their 2 years in Colombia, the first group of volunteers helped build 29 roads, 27 aqueducts, 4 health centers, 100 sports fields, several hundred latrines, and 44 schools.
These are the first children ever to go to school in Rinconsato, and this is their first day.
Colombia soon became one of the largest Peace Corps programs in the world, with volunteers helping in everything from electrification to educational television.
I remember very well. We had somebody from the Peace Corps in my house when it was launched, and he became part of the family.
Both the Peace Corps and President Kennedy were popular in Colombia.
To this day, you still see his photo, in whatever village you go to.
No presidents since President Kennedy had such an interest in Latin America. No president has valued Latin America more than President Kennedy. I think quite rightly the Peace Corps that were here were called Hijos de Kennedy.
In 1964, Sam Farr, a fifth-generation Californian, arrived in Colombia to begin his Peace Corps service.
The minute the Peace Corps was invented, that was like it was invented for me, my next step. There was no doubt that I was going to go in the Peace Corps. I think 20,000 people responded to Kennedy's request. It was at a time when the spirit of wanting to help and do good and being conscious about helping other people was part of American culture.
It was during his time in Colombia that Sam first came to understand the root causes of poverty.
I think that the Peace Corps taught us how to observe and understand the culture of poverty. It also gave us the tools to help them, the local people, help themselves. In cultures of poverty, you don't have schools, you don't have sewers, you don't have places to go get things. It's survival. These are the root causes of culture of poverty and can continue generation to generation unless you can break it.
While in the Peace Corps, Sam experienced a profound tragedy. While visiting him in Colombia, shortly after their mother died, Sam's 15-year-old sister fell off a horse, receiving a serious and ultimately fatal head injury.
And I got very angry at kind of third world culture, and, the poverty and the lack of sensitivity, and then it hit me, well, why are you coming back? And I just remember having a profound moment and saying, well, why did you come in the first place? Why did you join the Peace Corps? Wasn't it to try to solve these problems of lack of access to health care, lack of access to an education, lack of access to a safe place to sleep? And just because you're well educated and come from an American family doesn't mean you're immune from those things. And it just kind of realizing this is a lifelong mission for me. You never leave the Peace Corps. You just bring it home. And it's what led my wanting to get into a position in life where I could petition government to right wrongs and where the poor could have a voice. And that's how I got into politics. And as my wife has said, I'm still a Peace Corps volunteer. I've just changed my barrio.
Among those who answered President Kennedy's call in the mid-1960s was a young woman from San Francisco named Marie North. Maureen was assigned to work in a small village in the Andes Mountains, high above the city of Medellin.
In those days, women didn't have a whole lot they could do, and I was just thirsting for adventure, and I found everything I wanted here. One day, a posse of men came, 5 of them on horseback, with a horse for me. They knocked on my door and brought me up the mountain for the first time, and they said, we want to build a school, and we need to figure out how to do it.
With donated construction materials from the Coffee Growers Association, together they carved out a site on the side of a mountain and built the community's first school.
It took us about a year to build the first 2-classroom school.
The people expressed their profound gratitude by naming the school Escuela Marina Orth.
Even today, when I come up the mountain, I can barely get through it without starting to cry or my throat catches. It has such emotion for me. As soon as I start climbing up here, my heart starts beating.
For many years, when Medellin was the drug capital of the world, it was too dangerous for Maureen to visit the school she helped build. When she returned in 2004, she was asked by the Secretary of Education to help make Escuela Marina Orth the first bilingual public school in Colombia.
He said, look, these kids aren't going to have a chance to compete in the world unless they know English and unless they know computers.
Today, we are inaugurating the One Laptop per Child project at our school, Marina Orth.
A few years later, Escuela Marina Orth also became the first one laptop per child school in Colombia.
Busca 7 más 7 el resultado ahí.
Oh, you got it, 14. You did it. The computers have made a huge difference in these children's lives because for the first time they own something that they realize is extremely valuable, that is a tool for them to go so far beyond what they could have dreamed of. And as a result, they realize their own value more. And their parents are so excited to have this special tool in their house.
Están ocupados ahí siempre aprendiendo. Igual uno aprende de ellos. Yo he aprendido mucho.
Good morning.
No es una de las mejores, es la mejor. Es una maravilla, lo mejor que hay acá.
So it's really bringing the world, the entire world of the internet is being brought to this very isolated community high in the Andes, and it's a huge transformation. ¿Y qué están aprendiendo? ¿Huh? ¿Sí? Muchas cosas.
She's a great friend of Colombia, and she comes to school very often, and it's a great work that she has done.
Today, the Marina Orth Foundation supports 3 schools with more than 1,200 students.
I think, obviously, this school and these children and the ability to allow them to dream a life that they could never have imagined before, that's surely the most important thing I've ever done in my life, except having my son.
Like Marina Orth, many volunteers have continued to stay deeply involved with projects in Colombia long after their return to the United States.
It's a way of continuing the connection with this country that had played such a formidable part in my development. This is not just a 2-year experience. It's an experience that does impact the rest of the volunteer's life.
Arlene Cheston, president of Friends of Colombia, the Return Volunteers alumni group, helped found Paso a Paso, which supports the education of young Colombians by providing students with much-needed supplies as well as tutoring and mentoring.
What's so unique about this program is that the Magdalena Scholars tutor these children.
The Magdalena Scholars and other projects supported by Return Volunteers has made it possible for young people such as Sebastian to go to college.
When they have graduated, they tend to go back to communities or give to the communities that they came from.
Sebastian is the first member of his indigenous community to become a lawyer.
Lo primero es defender los derechos como ciudadanos y especialmente los derechos de los pueblos indígenas.
Both the tutoring and scholarship programs are run by Fundehumac, a local nonprofit organization based in Santa Marta that was established to help victims of Colombia's long and terrible violence become reintegrated into the Colombian economy and society. Fundehumac also partners with the Columbia Project, a microcredit loan program for displaced people started by Helene Dudley and other South Florida returned Peace Corps volunteers. The Columbia Project has helped create 600 new entrepreneurs excluded from traditional banking services.
¿Cuáles son las propuestas del día de hoy?
Small loans are dispensed each month through communal neighborhood banks. The participants vote on which small businesses will receive funding.
La comunidad Guayú eran todos desplazados pasando muchas necesidades.
Years of violence left many YU women widowed, driven from their homes and the sole supporters of their families. So far, nearly 100 YU women have received microloans to start small businesses based on their traditional weaving skills. With the income they receive, women are able to own their own homes and send their children to school.
Estamos en la misión de construir país y para eso necesitamos muchísimas manos que nos digan aquí estamos, creemos en su país como parte de un planeta y vamos a ayudarles. Entonces, de verdad que gracias por todos los aportes que nos han aportado.
From 1961 to 1981, more than 5,200 volunteers served in Colombia.
1981. The situation here in Colombia got very complicated. The security situation was very sensitive. The program was suspended.
After a nearly 30-year absence, the Peace Corps, at the invitation of the Colombian government, returned to Colombia in 2010.
The fact that they now want to return is a very positive signal of how not only the perception, but the reality of Colombia has changed.
Today, Colombia is the third largest Spanish-speaking country in the world and intent on developing its future by becoming bilingual.
Colombia has designated 2019 as the year that they want all educational institutions in Colombia to be bilingual.
I value very much what the new Peace Corps will do, which is to teach English. My obsession here is for the Colombians to become bilingual.
Right. Needed, right?
We saw Peace Corps as one of the potentially best resources to support that bilingual effort.
We are 9 volunteers altogether in the group, and it's really an incredible group of volunteers. The individuals, it's a wide range, a wide spectrum of people, but all very well versed in education.
After 40 years of teaching, Phil Geeson was ready to retire when he learned that the Peace Corps was coming back to Colombia.
I was just tickled pink, as they say.
The reaction of me going to the Peace Corps at 70 years old was varied, but generally people thought I was a little nuts.
It feels good to be back in Colombia. It's kind of exciting to be able to go back to where you were born in some ways.
In 1963, Phil Geeson, who grew up in a small town in Minnesota, heard about the Peace Corps.
And it just sounds like a great idea for a single guy to go learn another culture, learn another language, and you might even do some good. And so I started thinking about it, and I couldn't put it out of my mind, and I turned in my application, applied for Nepal or Africa, and then ended up in Colombia.
Like the other volunteers, Phil had no idea what to expect.
I laughed when we got on the plane in Miami. Some people came in suits and ties, some people came in coveralls. I mean, we all had an obvious different vision of what it was going to be like.
Phil credits the Peace Corps with inspiring him to return home and become a teacher for the most neglected students.
I kind of want to pay Colombia back for some of the inspiration they gave me. I mean, it sounds a little corny, but I think it's the truth. I go like this.
What am I
see
doing?
Kids light up when they get a word out in English, the right one. It's so exciting. I mean, it's small things, and to make the connections that they make.
Soccer.
when you help with people, you realize that you can get things done. I love the Peace Corps. I can't think of a better definition of, of a great program. Try to get to know another culture, let them know something about us.
Very good, thank you.
Just makes you feel good that you're doing something that's worthwhile. And we are doing something worthwhile here. You're not just watching things, you're participating in it and trying to make it happen. And that's kind of what I think life is all about. If you stop trying to improve things, you're falling behind.
When I found out that Colombia was opening, I wanted it really bad, but I didn't want to get too excited about it, just in the case it wasn't happening. I was born in Medellin, Colombia, and was put in an orphanage called La Casita de Nicolás when I was 5 days old.
At the age of 5 months, Nicole was adopted by a family from Kansas City, Missouri.
I feel really fortunate to have had so many opportunities in my life, and I knew that this is something I really wanted to do.
After graduating from college, Nicole decided to join the Peace Corps, first serving 3 years in Belize before coming to Colombia.
And I felt that if I truly want to help people in other countries, then how can I really help them if I'm not willing to try and live as they do in order to really get the understanding? I am assigned to working with the secondary school at Soledad Roman de Nunez, teaching English.
Great job. In a clandestine manner.
To Colombia has been really and truly, it's everything I've ever wanted. Everything has come full circle, where I am now able to serve in the country that I came from, but I am able to give back in my own way and try to help the people here, and it's been really amazing. I am so ecstatic for this opportunity.
28 years after she was adopted, Nicole returned with her mother from the U.S. to bring supplies to her orphanage in Medellin.
Being adopted made me want to do the Peace Corps. If I would have never been adopted and would have been in the orphanage, maybe I would have needed the help of somebody like a Peace Corps volunteer.
Everybody did very well.
I think that I have found my calling, and this is exactly what I want to do, and it makes me happy, and I'm just so passionate about it.
It was perfect.
I've been called to do service and called to work with others, and I thank God every day for giving me the eyes to be able to see that.
Everyone in this small town about an hour outside of Cartagena knows Jason, the Peace Corps volunteer from America.
I went into it because I really do enjoy learning about other countries and other cultures, and trying to break down those stereotypes that I had before. A couple of the first things that people mentioned when I told them I was coming to Colombia was to be careful about the kidnappings, and of course about the drug problem. And of course those things exist, but I don't feel any threats here.
Jason found that stereotypes and misconceptions exist on both sides.
From traveling abroad, I know that many people have different perceptions of what is, an American. Stereotype of America is, of course, blonde hair, blue eyes or green eyes, loud, also having a lot of money. And I don't think I fit any of those descriptions there, so I find pride in that I'm able to show them another side that maybe they haven't seen.
Like other volunteers, Jason lives with a host family.
I have a great host mother. She's a hard worker, incredible woman. She's very ambitious. She's a great cook. She just started a course to get certified to run a restaurant.
Nunca había tenido la experiencia de lidiar un norteamericano. Y con Jason, pues, borró de pronto un poco de de negativas que tenía y pude conocer mucho más de los norteamericanos a través de Jason.
Jason has already extended his stay once, and his Colombian mother doesn't like to think about him leaving.
No quisiera que llegara ese día, pero sé que tiene que llegar. Pero es muy duro para mí. De verdad, muy duro. Me da melancolía nomás decirlo.
Yes, I feel like I'm making a difference. Just from conversing with the kids here and even the teachers, I think I'm showing them another perspective that they may not have seen before. I think a lot of the reasons why we don't have good relations with other countries because they're fixed on these images. And I think once we're able to melt that ice, we're able to see that we're all more alike than we are different, so that we can all change together, make I guess the world a more peaceful place. So.
The third goal of the Peace Corps is to go home and tell others. It's in the original Peace Corps Act that was drafted by President Kennedy. You're supposed to go home and tell others about what you've learned. And it's made a huge difference in my life. I learned so much here, how to listen, how to fit in at any level. So many things that have helped me tremendously in my journalistic career.
In Peace Corps, people generally, they say that you often walk away with much more than you're able to give, and that's a general, I think, it's generally true. You learn so much, and really it's only in retrospect after you go home and you start to reflect on your experience in a different cultural perspective that those things start to sink in.
The people in Colombia have an incredible attitude, no matter what is happening around them, and it's that spirit of the people, I think, that was so profound for all of us, and why we have stayed connected with the Colombian people.
When you can spend some time of your life and get to know the country, really how it